raining. How pretty. Hello again there, friends and fans. Raptor here. Welcome back to Farthest Frontier for a tutorial on foraging and also advanced farming. Well, with blueberries. Good to see you all here. Thank you very much for joining me. And don't forget to sub to the channel to see more of this and many other games and more tutorials. And thank you very much for turning on that notification bell. Those of you who may have been watching the series for a while or whatnot, or saw the city before, you're thinking, what happened? Why did we jump back in time? Well, I jumped back in time because at this point, I have not yet gathered all the blueberry bushes on the map. And I'm such a little hoarder goblin with them. I wanted to show you before I was able to actually achieve it. And I'll show you what the results are a little bit later. So anyway, welcome aboard. Good to see you all here. Don't worry about any other pop-ups. We're talking here about foraging and blueberries in Farthest Frontier, which I think now more than ever in the 1.0 version of the game is relevant from the very beginning to the very end. There was a point where foraging wasn't so important. At a certain point, you turn towards farming, but as you can see out here, there's a lot to take advantage of in terms of like little greens and berries and nuts. And yeah, whether you're starting in day one or whether you're more advanced, this will be important. So pay attention. Here we go. So this is the tier 1 forager, and usually when I build these, I build them in groups of 2 to take advantage of all different types of crops or you know, stuff to forage that's nearby. These guys gather everything from willow bushes, which are used to make little straw baskets or willow baskets. They also gather berries like hawthorn, sumac, and blueberry, and they also gather herbs and medicinal roots, like pretty much everything in the game that is a well, like a pluckable resource. They deal with that, including eggs and greens that are laying there. Very important, and very important to put next to like a forest. Now this little kind of forest here is a field of trees that I've left here for a very long time. Even in our advanced series where we're up to like a population of 700, I've still left these here because these hazelnut bushes gather a lot for us. In fact, these guys can gather vegetables, fruit, and also nuts, and that also counts as a fruit too and has a lot of great preservation to it. So very important building that you'll be building many in order to cover the range of your city. So when you first start, you're probably going to build your foragers next to these guys, and you'll want to store these things inside of a root cellar. So you can build your root cellars and your foragers next to each other. And oh, there's a little bit of a blueberry farm that we've started already. That's going to get much bigger though. So when you're looking for blueberry bushes, and this is the only plant in the game that you can move, the blueberry bushes here can be moved with that yellow button that's next to the red button, and anytime that you find the blueberries, there'll be like a purple bluish kind of like pin drop around them, and you can move them from where they primarily spawn near like bodies of water. So you'll find them a lot near lakes, and if you click on them when they're out in the wild, sometimes they can be protected by wild beasts, so you might have to battle them for it, but you'll find them out here, like for example, let's just say these hawthorns here are blueberries. You'll click on that, a bush that's way out there, and you can click on the little yellow button there, and then you can drag it all the way back to where you want to put down a blueberry farm. And this is really valuable because you can get a ton of fruits right before the end of the year. Like blueberries are coming a little bit later in the year and can be gathered throughout that time, to where by the time they're done gathering, it's almost like an autumn harvest, and it works to prevent a lot of scurvy. And so it's a really important thing, an early fruit that you can rely on, almost like an early orchard. Both the berries and also apples, pears, and peaches kind of count under the fruit territory, as well as nuts. So when you're looking to build a little forager hut like that, you can see that you can put a large area around here. That giant yellow circle next to that little building is how much it can gather. So as this guy is not currently gathering blueberries, he's still gathering hazelnut from the bushes there, and also like there could be trees and things as well. Like for example, there are mushroom clusters, nuts from those trees. So they're gathering stuff year round. So even though he's not gathering from the blueberry bushes here, still being put to use in other things. So if you build your blueberry farms, definitely put them towards other sources, so the blueberry forager can be used year round. Now I have 2 foragers here though, because the blueberries produce a lot. As you can see here, there's 120 storage there, 20 out of 120, and those are probably being brought to the root cellar because the harvest season is over for now. So what I would recommend is, if you're going to do foraging, definitely move a forager somewhere where there's a couple of other things to do, but keep them pretty free for blueberries. So if you got some foragers already set up, build a couple new ones somewhere where you haven't really built before, like maybe for me like it'd be over here or something if we hadn't. and then put all the blueberries around there. I always try to make them look like a vineyard. They always look very beautiful. You can put a fence around them. Luckily, they're resilient to deer. Deer can't eat these, and they don't get stolen by raiders. They don't get destroyed or anything like that. So just like an orchard, they're kind of like almost building your own arborist, and it's so interesting as hell to do that. So move all your blueberries as you explore the map. You can send people out, press V in order to put down a red flag, and that will allow people to go and look for blueberries. And they may get killed, but the blueberries are important. So whenever you find them, just bring them back to your base, and you can set them up in rows. Now, you might want to get fancy with it and do like one every other row or make them look good. But as you can see over here, we just started our arborist buildings. The arborist buildings very soon we'll be able to harvest apples and pears, and there's a little overlap there, but these guys are just as important as the foragers, and they pretty much only do that. Once you've put down some trees, they'll be used for that, and these both, by the way, are connected because they also link into under fruit. There you see the final thing, what looks to be like a jar of marmalade and maybe like some strawberry jam. The preservist building, after sand is gathered and brought to the glassware maker can deliver glass to the preservist building, and they can start to take the berries that you've gathered from the forager and the fruits that you've gathered from your arborists and actually turn them into preserves, which will last even longer. So if you harvest those blueberries throughout the year and all those blueberries go straight to the preservist, you have food that can last almost throughout the whole year. And by the time the berries are harvested a little earlier in the year, it's not quite in the spring, it's not quite in the fall season, and it's somewhere like early, just like around early summer. Blueberries are insane in this game. They're very powerful. Alternatively, you could also kind of put the blueberry farms near where there's a bunch of other berries, like for example hawthorn, and that way you could try to gather hawthorn randomly when they're ready, and then blueberries afterwards. It'll still count as the same berries. And there's also sumac too, which I think grow more in the mountains in this game, in the alpine setting. So very cool stuff. So once you're done with that, yeah, that's just a really great thing. But you might start doing what we're doing here, which is building some farms. And eventually this farm will expand to here. And then eventually I build cows and stuff down here. You'll see in just a little bit a whole farming area down here. But foragers are still more important than ever because they specialize in doing all the things, farming all the things that I just mentioned. So they can actually grow their own berries. They can grow their own nuts. They can also grow their own like mushrooms. They can do all that stuff, and mushrooms count as a vegetable too, although I think they should count as a protein. But if you see here, you can actually upgrade a forager to tier 2. Now currently it does not meet the requirement in order to upgrade, and that's because we'll need some more materials for that. So it does take 20 wooden planks, 30 clay, and 26 bricks in order to upgrade a forager to tier 2, and that's a very powerful thing. So let's jump into the future a little bit. We'll see a blueberry farm that I've expanded on here, and then we're going to see also a forager that has been expanded as well. There's kind of a forager farm going on. These are kind of more like greenhouses and vineyards. Think of them that way, and that might be an easy way to remember on how to place them and lay them out if you're familiar. Okay, let's jump into the future. Go back to the future. All right, so it's been quite a few years, but I was doing other things in the game through this playthrough, and a lot of things were happening, and we finally got around to one of my favorite hobbies, the blueberry expansion. So I'm basically gathering, again, every blueberry bush on the map. You can see how much more the map has expanded and how much more we've explored, and I moved our little kind of forager area and farming down here. Now these guys have nothing to do with gathering any sort of things around the area at all, except for just a couple, 2, 3. These two here, the tier ones, are the only ones that gather anything anymore, and they're mostly gathering the blueberries, but they do gather willows down by the shore and also maybe medicinal herbs and whatever else, but that's fine, right? Like they're mostly focused on those blueberries, especially since they're kind of like right there next to them. So they do gather other things, but that's their primary focus. Now, the buildings, when upgraded from a tier 1 like this one, look like this when they're upgraded to a tier 2. Look at that. Gorgeous, gorgeous buildings. And now they kind of change in their function altogether. Now, this is a really great way for players who are building in the Alpine or whatnot to be able to get some of the things that they can't get in maps like this. For example, the willow bushes and like the medicinal herbs don't really grow anywhere other than next to water. And when you're in the alpine, you don't really have a lot of that, if at all. And so if you click on these buildings here for the tier 2 forager, it's now called the Forager's Garden. And you can actually kind of program here on what you want them to cultivate. And so you can also see that they can forage, harvest like things within range. It says there, develop land 0%, whatever. I don't really understand exactly how that works, because you can choose and tell them like what else they can gather, but you can't really set like a work area that brings them like too far away from that structure. In other words, they're going to be working here in order to do the farming, and anything within range they can also forage, but you're mostly going to be doing like the farming here of the things that they need. Again, it works like these tier 1s that are gathering willow, and these guys can too, but they're going to be so focused on that that they're just going to be busy all year round on that, other than the blueberries, which are harvested once per year. Anyway, we've got berries growing there. We've got nuts. And we've also got mushrooms growing here too. And I think I probably want to switch these two actually back to mushrooms. I was trying to gather some more berries while we were moving the fields over, but I think these are really great for growing, again, medicinal herbs, mushrooms, and willow, which are some things you can't get enough of. Then also nuts, but there's usually a pretty good supply of herbs and berries and way too many greens. I don't think you'll really ever need this for greens unless you're building in the arid areas. But yeah. So you can turn these on and use these for like a tier 1 forager, but I believe that's like beneath them now. They can go out and forage, but honestly, you may as well build two of these next to each other, like a tier 1 and a tier 2 next to each other, and just have the tier 1 do more of the actual foraging and the tier 1 focused on just like the farming part. So you can actually turn those there, and you can see the maximum yield for field 2. So there's not really much that comes in for willow or for like herbs, but there are a lot of berries and things that can be grown. So that's why you're going to want to do a lot more like mushrooms. Now, honestly, I don't think we could actually make enough of these foragers to be able to get enough mushrooms to keep everybody happy, but everything counts when it comes to feeding your people. Mushrooms do count as a vegetable, so you could add to your vegetable count, and also, you know, the berries and nuts count as a fruit. So fruits and vegetables can absolutely be taken care of by these tier 2s, as where like the greens, you might do that at the beginning of the game for your vegetables from your tier 1 forage huts, but honestly, once you start farming the cabbage, there's not really much of a need for it. But anything and everything is always important. So honestly, I say that you shouldn't worry about the extra foraging, but you know, it all depends. Like, I have a big old farm, so I don't really need to worry about that. If you're playing in a more difficult climate like the arid climate, then yeah, you're going to want to do foraging and maybe the farming. But it's all important to just have all this stuff gathered year-round by tier 1s, tier 2s, and it's really great though that they've upgraded these to tier 2s, because they're really a great step between farming and like being an arborist. The forager building is the most interesting building of the farming ones now, because it is a farming building. It's a gatherer for medicine, it's a gatherer for construction materials, and it could also like be turned into the blueberry farms. It's a really interesting structure and doesn't take a lot of space, and it also helps to get past things that you can't get anywhere else. And so it almost imports. It almost is like importing seeds in Banished, and that's a really cool thing. So yeah, I don't see the reason why I would myself personally be using this a lot for the tier 1, but I'm glad that it isn't like cutting it off, right? Upgrading it to a tier 2 doesn't stop it from being a forager, but it just makes it so much valuable for actually farming on its own that you just want to like triple down on having more and more of these little farm fields. And I do wish that the Forager's Garden had some sort of an extension that you could build to almost have like a plot behind it, so it could do miniature farming past this little garden on the side. Like if we could somehow make this wrap this garden here wrap around like to where this building is, that'd be amazing. If we could get a huge like little farm for mushrooms, I would do that. Like if there was some way to get it, I would love to do that, because I want to grow and provide everything for everyone, right? So you know, by the time you're really rocking it in Farthest Frontier, you should be having fresh meat and fish, but also smoked meat and fish. Then also eggs, bread. You should have beans and peas. Then you should have greens, beans, tomatoes, potatoes, hogs, logs, you name it. But also you want carrots, turnips, you want mushrooms. Of course, your forager will provide the mushrooms mostly, and then your preserves are going to just further go into those greens and fruits. But then again, blueberries, those are from your forager for sure. Berries, like foragers, still important for that, and almost makes more berries for fruits than the arborist can make for fruits, and then also nuts. So it's crazy. So it fills up so many categories. It fills up like two of the categories for vegetables, 2 of the categories, 3 of the categories for fruit, and then the preservist, you add a whole nother layer onto that too. And there's also luxury things there too, so the baker can make like pastries. So I guess you can consider maybe, I'm not sure, I haven't done it yet, but honey maybe from the arborist can be used there, although it's used for mead at the brewery. But I would like to see it so that way the luxury stuff that you can make are, berry jams. So you'll have like pastries that have berries in them, pies and whatever else, and then also things made with honey too. So that'd be an awesome building to have over here. Would be a maybe an apiary that could increase the fertility of the foragers, and that's a good thing. Let's test that out. Let's actually see if that's a thing in this game. Here's the apiaries here. It looks like there's no change to that missed opportunity. Same for the blueberry bushes too. So I guess just to answer a myth, unfortunately, the apiary can't improve fertility of blueberries or the forager, and I don't think it works at the arborist, does it? Oh, it does actually. Yeah, I even built one there. All right, cool. So it does work on the farm fields. It does work on the orchards, and oddly enough, it actually works on the gardens and stuff too. It's used. It produces more honey and I think wax for candles. So if you build it here, all that yellow is basically people's gardens. So these do provide a lot of, let's say, fertility for the bees, right? A lot of flowers for them to pollinate. Same with the trees, but not the blueberry bushes, and not the, if you built, greens and stuff down here, they don't really pollinate that either. But yeah, missed opportunity, I think. But anyway, I'd like to see that be a thing in Farthest Frontier. All right, everybody, that's pretty much it for how to get blueberries and make blueberry farms. That's it for upgrading them to Tier 2, which you'll need to produce bricks on. That's it for talking about the Tier 2 Forager, and that it can be used as a Tier 1 and a Tier 2, but kind of crazy in doing both. But you do you, and definitely build yourself some big O farms. I got plenty of space to expand into, and these are all the blueberries that I was able to find in a rather blueberry-heavy map. So if you don't find any blueberries, you're probably not in the idyllic valley or the lowland lakes, and you're probably in the plains and or the arid maps, but it is possible to find them. And if you can't find them, you can always do those Tier 2 foragers. All right, guys, that's it for now. So thanks again for subbing to the channel, turning on that notification bell, and don't forget to become a member too to support the channel more than you already do. I really appreciate all your support, and I'm really hoping that you're all enjoying the new updated series. We've covered a lot of this ground before when the game first dropped into early access, but now we got to cover it again because things are all new because of the technology tree. So some of these things you might actually see locked behind tech, and also they're subject to change before the release of the game. So I'm doing this right before its release, and of course things might even change further after release based on player feedback, but honestly I think it's all pretty much solid for now. So thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you all next time. Goodbye.